Good morning, Steve Freed in Chicago with the morning grain comments. Markets are mixed overnight. The grains awaiting today's USDA supply and demand report. Overnight, we saw stocks a little bit lower, dollar a little bit lower, and most commodities also a little bit lower. Dollars rallied cents. Midterm elections, it looks like GOP will gain control of the House. Still undecided as far as the Senate, with 4 key state Senate races still not yet called. The other news, as far as yesterday, there was a sell-off in wheat and corn late in the session. Some people think that the fact that Turkey's trying to get an extension on the Ukraine corridor for 12 months offered some resistance to corn. Most of the grain that's shipped out of Ukraine by vessel is corn. There's also movement by UN and NATO possibly to remove sanctions on a key Russian bank. That will allow Russia to increase grain and fertilizer exports. And that is weighing on the wheat market. We could see an announcement as soon as this week about the sanctions being removed on this bank. As far as USDA numbers is concerned, not a lot of change expected in the beans. They could eventually lower exports. China producer price index came out lower than expected. On one hand, it is lower inflation, but on the other hand, it could reduce their imports of raw material goods. There's about 19 million Chinese that are rapidly being tested in southern China for COVID. Over in the corn, they could lower U.S. corn exports and raise the carryout. When we look at the baseline numbers, it's interesting in corn, they really didn't raise ethanol use over the next 10 years. They raised the corn yield from 181 next year to 199, and they raised feed and residual, which is what they usually do if crops get bigger. It's not necessarily the feed number, but it just somehow works out that the residual is higher in big crops. But they did raise the carryout to $2.7 billion and lower on-farm prices, which is, I think, negative long-term. Still dry in the Midwest and Southern Plains. Blizzards across the PNW and Northern Plains is probably going to slow movement there, and eventually you'll see declining water levels in the Mississippi River as conditions remain dry there. We have a hurricane in Florida that will push itself into a tropical storm above normal rains in the southeast, and maybe even further north with a northeaster in the northeast. South America, weather conditions should improve with rains in Argentina and Brazil. The wheat, again, if this bank is reduce sanctions, it should open up Russian wheat exports. They are on pace to get to the 42 million tons that the USDA is forecasting. It could be 44 to 47 million tons. U.S. prices are still considerably higher than France, Germany, and Russia, so we're not really seeing the export demand. And so I think it's important that we look ahead as far as Kansas City almost being $1 over Chicago. Kansas City liberal stocks are 27% below last year, while soft wheat stocks are up 6%. Have a good trading day, and we'll be back with the USDA numbers later.